Okay, at the end of the last video, I just got to the point where I'd got an accepted start of injection point and I'd got an accepted duration value. So these were the values that I was going to use in the engine, again, I being the ECU. And what I've done is I've produced a silly diagram here to try and put it a little bit more into perspective. This circle is the 360 degrees that one engine revolution will take. In other words, the piston will imaginarily start up here at naught and then go round the engine, as if you could go round an engine, but come on, you know what I mean, and then back to naught again, and then round the engine and back to naught. But I'm only going once, so I've just got one revolution. So there we are, 360 degrees, one engine revolution. We're going to call the top dead center, or 0 degrees, and so as we go around this way, once we get to there, we would be at about 90 degrees, wouldn't we? And then when we get down here, we're at about 180 and so on. When we get back to the beginning, we won't get to 360, we'll call it 0 again. Right, everything over here before top dead center literally will be called before top dead center. Everything over here could be called after top dead center, but it won't be, not while I'm talking through this. It will be called before top dead center again. But if any of you are used to these sorts of things, I'll just be using minus numbers. So in other words, all my comments will be before top dead center. So real before top dead center values will just be numbers, and after top dead center numbers will be minus values. So I won't keep saying after top dead center, I'll just say minus. So everything will be related to top dead center. Positive values are over here, minus values are over there. Right. What I've done is I've marked 0, obviously, and then and obviously this is not accurate, I just made this up. I've put minus 10 and minus 20 there, hence the 2 arrows, and then I've put 10, 20, 30 this side, so that's what the 3 arrows are pointing at. And then what I've done is I've put a red arrow down here, which is for my 27 degrees before top dead center. So, and again, it's not accurate, but I'm saying there's roughly where 27 degrees would start, so I've written 27. And then I'm saying across here, this is where the duration must end, because duration is 44 degrees. So I'm saying start 27, 44 degrees. Where will I end? Well, 27 minus 44 is minus 17. So I will end at minus 17. So that's where I'm going to end. Now, this is where I sort of have to introduce some silly things, but I mean, I won't worry too much about them, and I'm probably not even going to use all the correct words. But basically, what we're looking for is a bang, isn't it? We're looking for an explosive bang, so that if our piston was sitting somewhere around here at 0, it would go bang, and we don't want it to go back the way it came, because it came up round here. So we want it to go bang somewhere around about here and get pushed down there. I think we can all agree on that. Now, most engine designers agree that somewhere around about, well, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, but somewhere over in this area is the absolute ideal place, not necessarily for the bang, because the bang takes time, that explosion takes time. But at some point during that explosion, if you had a little measurement in there, you had a little instrument in there to measure pressure, at some point in there, there would be an absolute maximum pressure on the piston because of the bang. And most people that design engines agree that somewhere over here, somewhere around about perhaps 12, 13, 14 degrees, is where the maximum pressure needs to be. So they want the explosion that's taking place somewhere here, that's somewhere across all of this lot, they want it to produce the maximum amount of bang, let's say at 14, I'll just pick that randomly, otherwise I'll be constantly saying this to number to that number, it'd be daft. So let's say 14 degrees, so they're aiming to get maximum bang at 14 degrees. Now of course, if injection ends, so if we call that end of injection, or EOI, if that's ending at 17 degrees, minus 17 degrees, then the maximum pressure for our bang here could be a little bit after that, couldn't it? So it's possible that, of course, that we don't actually know, because obviously no one's going to tell us, but Somewhere around this area, hopefully though, is when we get our maximum bang. Now you can see what you're up against, because let's take 44 degrees and 60 milligrams, and let's take that and say to ourselves, okay, let's tune the engine. Right, let's go and look at some figures. I've just stuck these here to make life simple, because otherwise I'll have to keep writing them down. Let's play with the figures. 5,000 revs, 60 milligrams, 44 degrees, start at 27. Start at 27, so there I'm starting at 27. I must be ending at minus 17, because 27 minus 44 is 17. Right, so we've got that. So why can't we just go ahead and play with this? Why can't we just say, well, it doesn't matter, I'll make this 50. So I'll make that 50 and I'll end at some other value. Well, let's look at see what might happen. If we just increase duration, we start mucking about with duration. First of all, the injectors, these pump injectors, can only be pressurised while they're sitting on the cam. So if you're too near the beginning of the cam rising up, or at the end where it's going down, you won't get any pressure. So the whole thing will not work. So it's got to be sitting on the cam. So you've got to be within the degrees that the cam is actually working the injector. That's for one thing. And the injector solenoids that have got to open and shut to allow the fueling, they've got on times which are pretty much, or off time, it depends how you want to describe it, but basically they've got on times, and when they are switched on they are going to get warm, because they are basically just little electromagnets, and so they are going to get hot, and they will overheat and they will die as a result of it, and so you will kill them. So if you ask for too much duration here, you're going to actually destroy your own injectors. Usually there are values in the file to stop you doing that. And of course the other problem is that if you increase duration, the end result is obvious, isn't it? You'll either force injection start, SOI, to advance, or you'll force end of injection to be extended later, or you'll cause both. In other words, it will advance and it will extend. So that will give you a knock-on, because now you're stuck with advancing start of injection. Now, even if you're not changing duration and you just want to advance start of injection, what can we do there? Well, if we advance start of injection, we might get a slight increase in power. There's a fair chance we'll increase emissions, especially nitrogen oxide emissions. If we over-advance it a little bit, we may end up getting less power than we think, and that may raise the engine temperature or even the exhaust temperature, but it might well raise the engine temperature. And if you go too far without realising it, then the piston will be trying to push, you will be causing a big bang somewhere over here, and the piston will be coming up and the bang will be trying to push it back the way it came. And the end result of that is going to be that you will either lift the cylinder head, in other words, you will start to stretch the cylinder head bolts, or worst comes to the worst, you will smash the piston down so hard that you'll damage the com rod and bend it, or break the crankshaft or something. So something serious could occur at that point. If you then say to yourself, well, okay, I don't want to risk advancing start of injection, I'll let end of injection get a little bit longer instead to try and protect that. Well, again, if that's accompanied with an increase in duration, then you may well get a slight increase in power, mightn't you? Because if you've increased duration, and even though you've left SOI the same as original, if you forced it to come a little bit later, you might get a little bit more power. You might find you can't do that though. You might find that the way the file is designed forces you to get some advance whether you want it or not. Over increasing the end of injection is the big problem though, because you'll have no effect on power at all, because what will happen is the piston will be on its way down past the maximum pressure point when you create your bang over here somewhere, and the piston's already going down here. Now that bang is chasing the piston to try and push the piston, but of course at high revs that piston's moving very fast. So your bang is going to struggle to meet the piston because the piston is running away from it. So there is a good chance that you will now not be adding anything to the engine at all. You might just as well have injected the same amount of fuel and ended earlier. Now, there is a problem with that as well, though, because although you're now not getting any more power, so there's no real effect on power, obviously you're going to be wasting fuel because you've got your foot flat on the floor and there's no power increase, but the fuel's got to go somewhere, so you're wasting fuel. It's going to wash down the engine boards, which is never a good idea. The end result of that will be it will dilute the oil, but one of the things that you've got to worry about a lot there is what will it do to the exhaust temperatures if this stuff starts to try to burn, because it's still burning, it's just not giving us any power. So will we just simply be making the exhaust gases hotter and hotter and hotter? Because if we do that, we are going to risk doing some really serious damage to the engine, just like with the other changes. So lots of things to consider. Right, now what I'll consider next is whether it's safe to do changes. So I'll stop there and I'll come back in a second. Well, a second for me, not a second for you.